Boofy and I go way back. When I was born, my grandmother gave me a stuffed Boofy as a gift. My mother and father tried to take it from me, but it upset me so much that they just ended up letting me keep it. They didn't think very highly of my grandmother. When I'd ask why, they'd always change the subject or give vague answers to the question. As I was growing up, my parents would fight a lot. It got worse and worse every passing day, and it upset me very much. I'd always go to Boofy for comfort in these times. I'd lie in bed and pray that things would be different when I awoke the next morning. One day, my prayers were answered. That's where our story begins. I try to think of reasons I ended up there, in Boofies Bunker, and I can never think of anything logical. The closest explanation I had was something that someone said to me a few years ago about dreams and parallel dimensions. Something like, what if when we fell asleep, our consciousness left our body and into another world that happens to exist in the same exact place as ours, but in another plane? It's a far-fetched theory, but it's all I've got. The radio said it was all in my head, but something told me that I shouldn't trust everything I heard in there. I knew I had to keep searching every corner of the bunker to find answers. My body didn't feel right. It felt like my physical self was non-existent. It was as if my body had transcended a second time, beyond this surreal dreamlike state. The Boofies would move like officers guarding a prison. The way they patrolled was almost uniform, as if they were hunting something or looking out for someone. Sometimes they'd even walk behind each other in a sequence, like a march. The radio was right. You don't want one of these things to get their hands on you. Whatever they were doing, they had been doing it for a long time, almost like their bodies were moving on their own without the help of their brains. The arcade machine inside the bunker seemed to be another gateway to a different area in the Chaos Realm. The idea always sat in the back of my mind that there was a way out of there. I had to do whatever it took to find a way back home. The realm I had somehow been transported to was very different from the one I had fallen asleep in the night before. Everything was so surreal and chaotic. The world had a name, though I'm not sure how I was familiar with it, and it was the Chaos Realm. On multiple occasions I tried counting the days I was stuck in there, but keeping track of time was impossible. It's like my brain was mush, and I couldn't focus on certain concepts no matter how hard I tried. Nothing made sense at one moment, then I felt like I had everything figured out in the next. I felt like everything was one big coincidence. The answers were right in front of me. The voices were in my head. Was I going crazy, or were the voices really there? Time after time I'd imagine what must have been happening in the waking realm. The real world, I guess you could call it. How was my family reacting to whatever state my physical body was in while I was stuck inside the bunker? Did I even leave a body behind? Was time even passing at all? I had been to the hedge maze many times before, but it was never the same. It was ever-changing, but not while I was inside of it. I could hear the Boofies march within the grassy halls. The longer I stayed inside, the less I was able to see and the more lost I'd get. It felt good to finally escape that nightmare, but not so much when I remembered that I would inevitably return. I sensed an overwhelming presence inside the arcade. The name Zelion echoed heavily throughout the halls of the nightmare. I ventured into the plane, seeking a way to get closer to reality, but what I found there was the opposite. If anything, I was just stumbling deeper and deeper into that world, like struggling in quicksand. I encountered quite a few new inhabitants inside the arcade. Bojin of Indulgence was the most prominent of the encounters. He would relentlessly hunt me, then go into a wild fit if I was discovered. Mikoet of Wrath and Signal of Fear resided inside of the arcade. Mikoet was unmoving and resilient. He would simply appear in places he wasn't in moments earlier and burn the area around him. I wouldn't dare go near this creature of pure energy and hate. Signal was the only one who truly frightened me, and apparently the others as well. He was kept in a cage in the basement level of the arcade. This was most likely to prevent him from attacking the others. Another beast I encountered inside of the arcade was Tenrei of Sorrow. She had an overpowering presence that made me want to stay away from her at all costs. Staying near her for any longer than a few seconds would break down my spirit and crush my happiness, weakening my soul and driving me into utter despair. She seemed to have powers of teleportation and could make copies of herself to overwhelm me. I kept finding new things that I had never seen before. The longer I was in the Chaos Realm, the more things around me would change. There were bits and pieces of memory from my life in the waking realm scattered around everywhere. I tried my hardest to grip onto whatever idea of reality that I could remember, and it completely changed the world around me. It took me to another section of the realm that was closer to reality than I had been since I first arrived. It had to mean something. I could feel it. The kinetic image of Zelion and the static image of Zelion were different from the others. They were seemingly lifeless, almost like they were machines, though I could tell that they weren't. It's almost as if they didn't possess their own consciousness, but were part of something else. They moved differently. They had a shared aura, like they were one. It's as if they always knew my location, like they were omniscient. There was nowhere to hide. My only hope was to outrun them and never back myself into a corner. Who knows what was behind their mirror-like faces? I'm not sure I even want to know. Occasionally the phone would ring. I'd always answer it in a hurry. I hadn't heard another human voice since I had been in the Chaos Realm. The voices on the other end of the phone, however, didn't seem human at all. The sounds didn't even feel like they were coming from the phone itself, but more like they were being directly implanted into my brain. Almost as if someone was crying for help and didn't want anyone to hear them but me. I had a gut feeling that I was meant to be there. One of the notes that I found in the back room said something about facing trials and learning the truth. What was all that supposed to mean? Was something testing me? The more I thought about this, the more I noticed the differences between the inhabitants of the Chaos Realm and myself. It was as if they were all figments of my imagination. They were the sort of things that I could make disappear if I closed my eyes and wished them away. If only it were that easy. There were others in the Chaos Realm. It's as if every creature in that place was of the same mind, the way they moved so methodically, like soldiers marching. There were many beings in the Chaos Realm, and I knew all of their names. I didn't name them, but their titles just sort of appeared in my mind. It was almost like I had known them for a long time. The world around me would warp and twist as I moved through its passages, like lucid dreaming but out of my control. If a thought occurred in my subconscious, whether it was good or bad, any simple what if or pessimistic vibe, it had happened before my very eyes. The most curious place I'd visited in this realm was the kitchen. Everything seemed to be a joke there, but I think that was the whole point. The beasts lurking within the shelves of the oversized pantry would mock and laugh like demons as they prowled the gloom. Their names were Gamla of Ridicule and her child, Vizrock of Oppression. They had to know where I was, but must have practiced restraint as a game of hide and seek, with my life wagered as the prize. Every so often, Gamla would give birth to Vizrock, only to produce another exact replica of him moments later, seemingly with intentions to overwhelm me. A Boofie was in the kitchen as well, but he was the largest of them I had ever seen. The overwhelming aura of power was way too threatening to risk him even catching sight of me as he checked the pantry. I knew I had to get out as soon as I could. This one didn't seem very patient. I had deactivated every rune in Zelion's final challenge. I dominated every trial and had finally removed every seal in Boofies Bunker from its pedestal. As I broke the final seal, everything felt normal again. I was no longer in the Chaos Realm, but I was still in Boofies Bunker. I would say that I was confused by this, but I was not. He was right. The voice that had been speaking to me this entire time. Zelion's voice. Telepathically putting thoughts, ideas, and information into my mind. I knew everything. I was his plan from the moment I materialized into this realm. His plan to merge the Chaos Realm with the Waking Realm. He was imprisoned inside his containment chamber, the glowing purple orb in the sky, the blood moon, imprisoned for self-proclaiming that he was a god. The moon was hidden inside Boofies Bunker, the highest security prison inside the Chaos Realm, hidden in plain sight. Impossible to reach to those who haven't ascended and mastered all of security constructs in the ancient prison. He was so powerful that he had taken control of the others imprisoned and the guards themselves from within his restraints like puppets. He has succeeded in his escape plan. The worlds have collided, and turmoil has erupted into our own world. Zelion is free, and there's no way to stop him. I only hope that this psychic memoir will reach someone who can end this era of disarray. If you're out there and you can hear this, I'm still in Boofies Bunker. I'm reliving the chaos trials that I've gone through to unknowingly release this horrible evil. This horrible spawn of my childhood agony, exponentially magnified by the Boofie doll that my grandmother had cursed and given to me as a child. Come find me, and we will track her down and bring this to an end.